Welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And if this is your first time listening, welcome aboard. It's Bill and Fro. How we doing today, Fro?
We are very good.
Wonderful. This week, we have two pay-per-views that we are going to review. Two that, well, we sort of both predicted in the right way. Go as planned. Don't have a lot of news, which is good. So I want to get into real quick because I just want to talk about two things and then we'll get to our reviews. This was reported yesterday by Mike Johnson, a PW Insider. Jacob Fatu, that's a name that I have mentioned many times on this podcast, has signed a new long-term deal with Major League Wrestling, which is pretty good. The deal is all the way through 2025 and prohibits him from performing for WWE and AEW, which makes obvious sense. Like I said in the past, this guy is very talented. I think he's going to be a big part in the future of wrestling. And them, meaning Major League Wrestling, signing Jacob Fatu to that long of a contract is a big, big steal for Major League Wrestling. Oh, is that thunderstorms again? I'm sorry, folks. I've been dealing with thunderstorms like every night this week.
Thunder and lightning is very exciting.
Yes. Also, WWE officially announced, even though it really wasn't much of a surprise, SummerSlam is not in Boston this year.
What? I am so shocked. Said nobody.
I mean, this was talked about a while back. The mayor of Boston put down limits, and so it's going to pretty much be at the Performance Center if you put two and two together. So, SummerSlam no longer in Boston. If you did have a ticket for SummerSlam, you can get a refund right now, which is a very good thing on WWE's part.
Sure.
Let's talk about Wednesday night. The ass whooping that AEW gave to NXT this week in the ring.
It was like, whoa, holy moly.
Yeah.
What is happening here? Yeah.
AEW had an overnight viewer audience of 845,000, which is up from the 788,000 the previous week. And they went up in the 18 to 49 demo from a .29 the week before to a .32. Meanwhile, while NXT did go a little bit higher in the demo of the 18 to 49 demographic, they were at a .17 this week. They had 615,000 viewers.
Wow.
So AEW just obliterated them in every category that you can think of this week. It wasn't even close. I mean, AEW had a pretty good show this week.
It was okay.
NXT was just flat, I felt.
Yeah.
It was just really, really, really flat. So yeah, those are pretty much the news that we have for this week. Because somebody wanted to do this a little bit quickly this week, because I didn't really have anything planned besides the pay-per-view reviews. So, why don't we go into those said pay-per-view reviews?
Let's start with Sunday. Let's do it the other way around.
Okay.
Let's start with the bad thing and go to the good thing. I vote that.
This one time I'll allow it. How about that?
Oh, thank you.
This
Thank you.
one time I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunday was the horror show at Extreme Rules, and boy, did they get the title of that show right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a horror show.
I have never seen a horror show like that.
So what we have here, for those of you that are new and listening for the very first time, welcome. We will give our ratings, plus we will give the rating from Dave Meltzer, CBS Sports, and ESPN. So we did have a kickoff match, Kevin Owens versus Murphy, and it was a good match. I kind of enjoyed it.
I kind of wish I didn't watch this because it's probably the best match of tonight. Ability wise, it's up there at least.
Oh yeah. KO got the win with the stunner. I gave it a C minus, and you gave it a C.
I did.
All right. Meltzer rated this match 3 1/4. CBS Sports gave it a B, and ESPN gave it 3 1/4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So now we go to the main pay-per-view, and we start off with the tables match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Big E and Kofi defending against Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Okay match. I mean, nothing too big, nothing memorable about this this match.
I agree.
I mean, it was placed, I think, at the right spot. Cesaro powerbombed Kofi through 2 tables to win the match and become the new tag team champions, which was a nice surprise. I did not expect them to win that match.
I think nobody did.
Yeah. We both gave it a C.
Yep.
Meltzer gave this 2 3/4 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B minus. ESPN gave it 3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
And then this is where the show takes a turn for the worse.
Yes.
Because the next match, Nikki Cross challenging Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Oh, this match was a struggle to watch.
It felt very, very much like a struggle.
I don't know why it was, because Bayley is a good wrestler. Nikki Cross is a good wrestler.
There was no chemistry there.
No. Oh, no. And then the end of the match didn't help it, because Sasha gave Bayley one of her, bling, her jewelry. Bayley punched Nikki in the ribs and got a 3 count to win the title, or to stay the champion. I gave this a D. You gave it an F. Your first F of the show.
Yeah, not the only one.
Not the only one, yep. Meltzer gave this 3 1/4 stars.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
Talk about drinking the fucking Kool-Aid.
Jesus. A completely different match.
or drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. CBS Sports gave it a B.
Mm.
ESPN, a little bit on our side, gave it 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, but that's way too high.
Oh, that 3.25?
B.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that B as well.
Okay, gonna go through a couple of segments here. We had a Firefly Funhouse, which was actually not that bad.
No, it was good.
And Bray teased us by showing the most horrifying thing ever, which ended up being the karaoke segment from a few weeks ago. Then, the Raw commentating team switches over. The next match was supposed to be MVP versus Apollo Crews for the U.S. title. However, Crews was not medically cleared for the match. So they do this whole thing. MVP says that he wins by forfeit, declares himself the champion. I actually have some inside information on why this match did not happen. 2 words, bro. Coronavirus.
Oh, what a shock! Really?
Yep.
I'm so surprised. Said nobody.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Crews. He seems like a genuinely nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Then we go to one of the 2 hyped matches of this show. The Eye for an Eye match.
Finally, with CGI.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to see an eye. I'm so happy. Oh, wait. It was all a lie?
Yeah. Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins. I didn't think the match was that bad.
I don't either. I think I was a little bit angry because they didn't show us anything.
Right. I mean, it was just a good back and forth fight. That's all it really was.
Yeah.
And then I want to point out the
But the ending is very bad. I think the ending is what kind of got it for me.
And I want to point out the ending because Mysterio, before he attempts to take Seth's eye out, removes the eye patch covering the injured eye. Excuse me. So he tries to get Seth, in. I think Seth gave him a low blow. Seth comes back, and then he puts Ray's eye through the exact same spot. Rev calls for the bell. Seth throws up. What a surprise. And you barely, and that's the key word, barely saw the eye, quote unquote, out, because Ray was covering it.
Yeah, and why were they saying it was going to be a CGI moment here? I don't understand it.
I don't know.
There was no CGI in this match whatsoever.
None. I gave the match a B-.
Yeah, I think that's too nice because they promised us something.
It would have been higher for me. I just think the ending was a little lackluster.
Right.
But as far as going towards the end, it was really good.
Yeah.
You gave it a D+.
Yeah. That's D for dog.
Right, D for dog. Meltzer gave this 4 stars.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding. I'm looking. My eyes are perfect. It says 4 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B. ESPN gave it 3 3/4 out of 5. Now, the next match would have been my match of the night had it not been for the ending. Asuka versus Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's title. This was a very good match.
Yeah, it was.
This was just done really well. It was good. It was fun to watch.
Yep.
But then the ending comes.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bayley tries to get involved. Kyrie intercepts her. Bayley tries to hit Asuka, doesn't do it. And then Asuka blows mist into the referee's face. And then Sasha, pardon me, hits, or no, wait, what happened? I'm sorry, this match is just so confusing. Basically, Asuka gets knocked out. Sasha has the pin. There's no referee coming out. So Bayley takes the referee's shirt off, puts it on her, or puts it on herself, and makes the 3 count. And Bayley's like, ring the bell!
That is so stupid.
Ring the bell!
So incredibly stupid.
That is...
With which authority did she get to be the referee in this match? Exactly. Who decided that?
Exactly. So, Banks leaves with the belt?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh man. I mean, it was a very good match.
Did they explain this on Monday? Because I didn't watch.
I'm trying to remember what Bayley said, but I think she was saying like she was trying to be a role model. And then Stephanie McMahon made a ruling saying that Sasha is not the Raw Women's Champion, but Asuka didn't win the match either, so they're going to have a rematch this coming Monday on Raw, where if Sasha is disqualified or counted out, she loses the match. If Bayley gets involved, Sasha loses the match.
Okay.
The ending cost this match 2 whole grades. It was going to be a B, but it went down to a D because of the ending. You gave it an F.
Mm-hmm.
Meltzer gave this match 4 stars.
Holy.
Yeah. CBS Sports gave it a B. ESPN 4.25 out of 5.
Jesus Christ on the stick! Stop drinking the Kool-Aid!
Okay, then we go to the WWE title match. Dolph Ziggler against Drew McIntyre. Dolph gets to pick the stipulation. And we were not going to know. Fro's laughing because of the grades from the last match. We were not going to know the stipulation until the match was about to begin. So, here it is. Dolph's stipulation is, it is an Extreme Rules match. But
only for him!
Exactly, which is actually a pretty smart move.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But as someone pointed out, why didn't they make it a everybody named Dolph Ziggler will win this match? Right.
I mean, the 4 of us that were watching the show, we came up with like 5 different ideas of how Dolph could win the match. If your last name begins with a Z and you're in this match, you win the title. So Dolph could only have the Extreme Rules stipulation. Drew would lose the title on a disqualification or a countout.
I like that.
Yeah. This ended up being my favorite match of the show. It was a good match. It went just the way it was supposed to. They stuck to their guns, stuck to the stipulations. And then Drew hits a Claymore at the end to stay the WWE champion. I gave it a B minus. You gave it a C plus.
Mm-hmm.
Meltzer gave this 4 stars. 3 matches in a row he gave 4. What is it? Okay, now to be fair though, Fro, if any of the previous 3 deserved the 4 stars, it would have been this one.
Oh, definitely. I agree that.
CBS gave it an A minus, and ESPN gave it 3.5 out of 5. And then the main event, the swamp fight. This was a thing.
It's the worst pre-taped thing we have ever had so far.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree.
I think it will be very hard to beat this.
As far as bad quality goes.
Pre-taped? Yeah.
Yeah. Strowman makes it to the compound. Wyatt is sitting in a rocking chair. Vanishes. Strowman starts fighting people. And then somebody hits Strowman with a shovel. And he turns around to see it's Braun Strowman. And then Strowman hits Strowman a second time with the shovel. Strowman is then chained to a rocking chair.
Mm-hmm.
This is Braun Strowman. He could get out of this. How the hell is he not getting out of this?
Very easily as well, because those ropes were not tied hard at all.
Yeah. So Bray Wyatt comes out. They're having a dialogue. And then this woman comes with a snake and bites Strowman. So Strowman then wakes up. He's next to a bonfire. And he starts fighting people. And then eventually one person is set on fire. And we have stock footage of animals during this match. We have a stock footage of a boar, stock footage of a vulture, stock footage of a rabbit. Oi, that thing is deadly. And then we hear, Braun, you don't have to do this. And then my first thought was, oh my God, this is Sister Abigail. We're going to finally see Sister Abigail. No, it's Alexa Bliss.
What?
And it goes into the, I've always known you wanted me. We could be together and be together forever.
Oh, so stupid.
Bray comes out. They fight on the dock. Bray ends up getting chokeslammed onto a boat. Unfortunately, it is not at the last.
I see what you did there.
And the boat goes away. Only for the boat to come back. Braun then goes into the water. Bray's not in the boat. Bray fights Braun in the water and tries to drown him at one point. And doesn't do it. So Braun is able to get back onto the dock. They fight some more. Bray's about to finish Braun. Braun kicks Bray into the water. And then the credits pop up. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's the end of the... Oh, no! Bray pops up, puts the mandible claw on the Braun, drags him into the water. There is blood, quote unquote, in the water. And then we see the Fiend pop up. He stares into the camera, and the camera goes to black. And the last thing you hear is, "Let me in." And that is how the pay-per-view ends.
Fantastic.
I gave this a question mark because I had no idea how the hell to rate that. You gave it a Z minus.
Z minus, yes.
Meltzer does not rate taped matches or cinematic
Right.
matches, so we won't know what his rating.
What did he say?
These type of matches are already running their course because once you had the Boneyard match and Stadium Stampede, everything looks bad in comparison. But this was bad in comparison to the Edge Orton match at Mania. It just sucked.
I agree.
CBS Sports gave it a C, and ESPN did not rate this match. So now to our Facebook group. What did they think of this show? Well, not a lot of people voted Fro, and that's probably a good thing. A couple people gave it a C. One person gave it a B. Person gave it a D. I am giving this show an F. The presentation was just terrible. Terrible presentation from beginning to end. I don't think it's worse than the match, let me take that back. I don't think it's worse than Backlash. Backlash was just complete trash.
Right.
But the presentation on this was just brutal.
No, it's definitely not my favorite pay-per-view of the year. But yeah, I still give it a D. I don't think it deserves an F, to be honest, because the last one was even worse. This was just boring. I mean, I don't mind. Well, I do mind. I do mind bad pay-per-views, but I don't mind them at least trying something, and I will give them that. They tried something. Did I deliver? No. But for me, it isn't an F. It is definitely a D.
Favorite match from this show? Most people went with Drew McIntyre against Dolph Ziggler.
That is the winner of the night.
Yeah, that is the winner. Followed by the tables match and the swamp fight. That was it.
Yep.
So, now we go from the terrible show to what might have been the pay-per-view of the year. And
maybe.
We're not even joking. This could have been the pay-per-view of the year.
Definitely.
Slammiversary was on a Saturday night. And this was an amazing show. An amazing show, beginning to end. Opening match is a tag match. It's the open challenge. Dez and Wentz of the Rascals laid out an open challenge a couple days before the show. And we really had no idea who they were going to face. They end up facing the Motor City Machine Guns. This was a fun tag match to watch.
It was. I think there's something about like the chemistry here that works. Like, I wish WWE would watch this pay-per-view and see what they did wrong, because there's not one single bad match in this pay-per-view.
No. Oh, no.
And we were like at all. And it involves some of the people that I don't especially like in the women's battle royal and things like that. But they just did it. The pacing was right. Everything was right in this match. And there's something when a pay-per-view doesn't lose its steam.
Yeah.
And if you look at the audience, we didn't talk about the audience at the WWE pay-per-view. But that stadium, or that performance center, felt more empty with audience in it than this pay-per-view that didn't have an audience.
Yeah.
How the fuck is that possible?
It's quite amazing, actually. And as a matter of fact, I want to point this out real quick before we get into the rest of this review. They pulled in strong pay-per-view numbers. PW Insider has indicated that this show did pretty well in pay-per-view buys. It was the strongest buy rate in a long time. I don't have the exact number. Fight TV doesn't release their buy rate numbers, but official pay-per-view numbers should be available in a couple of days. So they did something right here. This match is a fun tag match. It's just two tag teams wrestling, going at each other. Machine Guns win it. We both gave this an A-. Meltzer gave it 3.25 stars. Then we had Moose defending the TNA heavyweight title against Tommy Dreamer in what was basically a weapons match. Good back and forth match. Went a little slow at times, but that's not a big complaint. Tommy brought out the bag of thumbtacks, and Moose ended up putting Dreamer into the thumbtacks, hits him with a spear. Moose retains the TNA heavyweight title. Oh, forgot to mention, Tommy Dreamer had a shirt that said Moose sucks eggs. So that's not the only time this week that sucking eggs would be mentioned on wrestling this week with AEW and Eddie Kingston. Both gave this a B-.
Yep.
Meltzer gave this a 1.5 stars. Then we go to...
1.5 stars?
1.5 stars.
Why so low?
Let me see. I'm trying to...
That seems extremely low.
He doesn't really give a reason. Then we go to the gauntlet match. Winner is the #1 contender to the Knockouts title. Kylie Ray and Tasha Steelz are the first two competitors. And then we get Taya Valkyrie. Oh, no, it's Johnny Bravo dressed as Valkyrie.
I like this stuff. It's very funny.
It was a little weird, but it was a little good. Kimberly, Kira Hogan, Susie comes out. And then, one of our low points of the night, the return of Katie Forbes.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I'd rather not see her shake her ass.
I mean, I don't like her, and I think RVD is terrible, so I don't really mind that she was there, but it's okay.
Right.
It's porn.
Basically. Then the rest of the order...
I've seen porn with people with more clothes and less shaking that she did that pay-per-view, so...
Wow. The rest of the entries, Madison Rayne, Havoc, Taya Valkyrie does come out. Alicia Edwards, Nevaeh, and Rosemary was the final entry. Until Rosemary comes out. But it's Johnny Bravo. And he gets eliminated. It eventually comes down to Taya Valkyrie, Rosemary, and Kylie Ray. Taya kicks Rosemary, eliminates her. It's down to Ray and Valkyrie. And Kylie Ray ends up getting a pin on Taya Valkyrie, and Kylie Ray's the #1 contender to the Knockouts title. How about that?
How cool is that?
Both gave it a B-. Meltzer rated this a dud.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Let's see. This was just bad. Ray is usually very good, but so many of the women in the match weren't. Ray and Steele started and they rushed people in, so it didn't go too long. It was about a 20-minute match. At one point...
That man needs help.
At one point, the stream goes out. Not my end. It was the people there. And Heath Slater is there. Yay!
I like this. Everybody else was like, hey, Heath Slater.
It's not that bad. Then we go to the X Division title match. Willie Mack defending against Chris Bay. This was a very good match. I enjoyed this match.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe should have gotten a little bit more time, but it was very good. Both these guys could go. This was my first time seeing Chris Bay. I was impressed by Bay. Bay ends up hitting a crucifix bomb and then hits sort of like a running diamond cutter to win the X Division title. I gave this a B+. You gave it an A-.
I did. I really, really liked this match.
Meltzer gave this 2 3/4 stars.
Okay, I think we're going to cut out Meltzer soon because now he's getting to irritate me. How does he hate everything on this pay-per-view but loved everything on Sunday? Now, what the fuck is wrong with you, Meltzer?
I do want to say, because I did watch Impact, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on Impact once we're done with this review.
Sure.
Their rematch was good, but it wasn't as good as the match on Saturday.
I agree.
Then we go to the Impact Tag Team title match. The North defending against Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan. Was our least favorite match of the show.
Yeah.
It just didn't really click.
No.
But,
they tried.
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't terrible.
No.
I mean, WWE had terrible matches on Sunday. This was just,
It was a breathing pause, more or less.
Mm-hmm. The North win to retain the titles. I gave it a C. You gave it a C+. Meltzer gave it 3 stars.
I don't know.
After the match, the North proclaimed they are the greatest tag team in Impact Wrestling history. Out come the Motor City Machine Guns, who say that they were given word that they will be facing the North this Tuesday on Impact for the tag team titles. And we'll give our thoughts about that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this next bit we have to mention because it's very important. Female backstage reporter is going to interview Gallows and Anderson.
This is good. This is so good. I love this.
This was great. Instead, here comes Rich Swann. Okay, we haven't seen Rich Swann in about 6 months. Makes sense. So he talks about how, well, you know, I'm here to support my boy, Willie Mack. He's down, but he's going to get better. But I'm also keeping my eye on that world title match. And once the doctors clear me, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the world title. Okay, remember that for later. Then we go to probably the match of the weekend Fro and I were most anticipated for. Deonna Purrazzo challenging Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts title.
such a good match.
The best women's wrestling match I've seen all year.
Mm-hmm.
That good of a match.
Loved it.
Loved it. Both women brought it to the table. Not only did they deliver, they exceeded our expectations of this match. It was a great match. Go out of your way to see this match. This, like I said, this to me was the women's wrestling match of the year.
Yep.
Deonna Purrazzo wins with Fujiwara armbar to win the title. I gave it an A-. Fro gave this an S, and for those of you that are new, an S is the highest grade which we could give, which means it was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, all about the theodotogenomadatosis, all about the theodotogenomadatosis, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Sorry, I got carried away there.
Yep. It's that good. I loved it.
I don't know if you want to know Meltz's rating.
Oh no. If he gives this a dud?
No. Oh no, it's not a dud. It's higher than a dud.
Okay.
2 3/4 stars.
Okay.
Now we go.
I'm never ever going to trust or listen to the Melts again.
Now we go to the main event. The main event that we have followed on this road consistently for a month, with all the changes happening. Do you know how much Tessa Blanchard wanted to go, to be paid to do the job?
1.5 million.
Not that much.
Okay.
She wanted 150,000.
What a douche.
Okay, so we were promised a fourth person for this match. So the original 3 people, Trey from the Rascals, Ace Austin, and Eddie Edwards. We had no idea who the fourth person was going to be.
Nope.
Bravo to Impact Wrestling for the way
they swerved us.
Because it's Rich Swann.
Yep.
Rich Swann is medically cleared. It's like, all right, they got us. They got us good.
They got us good.
But then another music plays.
I was so happy.
And
I don't think I have been this happy in my entire life. I think I screamed very high.
Because it's Eric Young, the returning Eric Young.
And he looks so good.
He did.
And so young and so creepy.
And I have to applaud Impact. Because if you think about it,
the same with the beginning match. I mean, they totally tricked us in the beginning match as well. We thought about that because we all thought it was going to be, or 3G.
Right.
But it wasn't. It was a returning tag team with someone that we have heard had broke his back. Yeah.
But here, what Impact did, and you have to remember, the original main event was a 5-way match. So they ended up making it a 5-way match.
Mm-hmm.
And my God, this is so good. This was so good. At one point, Trey does this sick Canadian destroyer where he's in the ring with Eddie Edwards. He slides under the legs of Edwards, slides toward the outside where Rich Swann is. It hits a Canadian destroyer on the outside. Oh my God. It was such an unbelievable move. And then, we're getting back into the ring, and Eric Young hits a pile driver on Trey, which eliminates Trey from the match. Then we get this fantastic spot. Edwards and Austin are on the top rope. They're fighting. Rich Swann goes over there. Eric Young goes over there. They push Edwards and Austin off the top rope and both go through the timekeeper's table where we never knew it was there. It was so well done.
I love this match. It's a match that I think people should get out of their way and watch.
Yes. Then Eric Young attempts another pile driver, but Swann reverses it into an inside cradle. 1, 2, 3. Eric Young is eliminated from the match. And then this is where it gets even better. Eric Young goes after the injured ankle of Rich Swann.
Yep.
And then he takes his ankle, puts it in the bar that is in between the post and the actual turnbuckle. And he hits Swann, his ankle with the chair multiple times. And it's so good. Oh my God. It was so good. So now we're down to 3. Ace Austin comes in. He sees Swann is hurt. Swann puts up an amazing effort, but just can't hang in there much longer. And Austin pins Swann. Rich Swann is gone. So now we're down to Edwards and Austin. These two fight. They try their near falls. They can't get it. Edwards ends up hitting the Die Hard, and Eddie Edwards wins the Impact title.
Hit me with your best shot.
Oh my God.
Come on, baby, hit me with your best shot.
Then we have to talk about the ending. Madman Fulton comes in because he's been with Ace Austin. They attack Eddie Edwards. All of a sudden, here comes Gallows and Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, Austin is like, go ahead. Go after him. He's all yours. They shake hands. They hug. But then Gallows and Anderson attack Fulton and Austin. And Edwards gets back up, and they celebrate the win. So then you're like, okay, that's the pay-per-view. Unbelievable. But then,
we were even on our way to closing the call on Discord. We were watching this and we were like, yeah, this was a cool pay-per-view. Good night, everybody.
Then I see 3 lines on the screen.
I'm very happy that Bill goes, hey, shut up. There's coming something.
Well, those weren't my words.
Well,
and we see a guy. We see a body. He turns around. Oh, not again.
Oh, my God.
No.
Again?
Are you kidding me? Oh, it stopped.
For everybody that has not listened to the Patreon review, go listen to the Patreon reviews, everybody.
It's only $3 if you want to hear it.
You will hear that alarm. Very present.
Oh my God. So anyway, the guy turns around. It's EC3. He's got a glass in his hand, throws the glass up to the wall, the glass breaks, walks away, and that's the pay-per-view.
Yep.
The main event, best match of the night, best match of the weekend. Yep. I gave this an A+. You gave it an S. It was well deserved. Meltzer gave it 3 3/4 stars. Must have been watching a completely different pay-per-view.
I don't trust.
Now, while not a lot of people gave the grade of this pay-per-view, I am giving this an A.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down an A.
Hands down, I agree.
I believe, I said this on our Patreon review, and I'm going to say it here to everyone. This show is in my top 3 for pay-per-view of the year. It was better than any WWE pay-per-view all year. I would put it up there with Wrestle Kingdom from this year.
Yeah.
And AEW Revolution for the show of the year.
I think the problem with the New Japan show is that if you rate it for both of the nights, it goes very much down. And if you take one night over the other one, you could have arguments about that, I guess.
I'd agree with that. As far as favorite match goes, the people that did vote said that the 5-way elimination match was their favorite match of the show. One person voted for the women's gauntlet match, and one person voted for Purrazzo against Jordan. I'm going to give my vote to the 5-way elimination match, and I think you were going to do the same.
Yeah, but it's very, very, very close to the women.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say something, and then we're going to start wrapping up because Fro has a lot of stuff to do today, so that's why the show is not as long as it usually is.
Yeah, and next week we will have a very long show because we're going to begin the countdown to a certain list that we do every year.
Yep. So, I watched Impact Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
First time I'd seen it in years, like a whole episode beginning to end.
What did you think?
I'm watching it every week.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
And I'll tell you why I liked it. Because, unlike Raw, who should learn from this, or they should know better from this, and to a degree AEW should learn from this. Although there's a couple exceptions to the rule that I'm about to say. Every match on Impact, with the exception of the main event, but it's understandable.
Sorry.
Got sneezed. Anyway.
Wow.
Anyway. Every match, you got to see the match in its entirety. Beginning to end. I'm not mad about the main event because it is the main event. And it's going to get the most time. But everything about that show was so fun to watch. The segments, and there weren't that many, were fun to watch.
Yeah.
I thought this company was done for, Fro. Somehow, in a matter of 2+ years, they have been able to change my mind from this company is dead, it should not be around, to, oh my God, this could be the number 3 promotion in the United States. It's not quite to number 2 yet, but it could be there if they keep things going.
I couldn't agree more. There's something about this company that it reminds me of the tale of the little duck that tried, or whatever it's called. It's like maybe they are super small and maybe they are somewhat unknown, but for me they are just one of the best companies in the world that have turned around from being one of the worst companies in the world. And like I said, I just adore him.
And there were times where they deserved to be bashed.
Oh, yeah.
There were times where they absolutely deserved it.
I could not agree more.
And I think the only way that you can get better is to go through the growing pains.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of them. Because we have to remember how 10 years ago it was like, oh, they brought in Hogan, they brought in Bischoff, they brought in all these people. And in the end, they ended up almost killing the promotion more than helping them.
Yeah.
And when they got new ownership, I think the new ownership learned and decided, okay, the only way we're going to succeed is if we go backwards. Meaning, we have to go from thinking big to going small. And that's what did it for me. That's what did it for me.
I agree.
I mean, Eddie Edwards did a whole thing about, this belt hasn't been defended in months. I'm going to defend the title every single week. Is it copying Cody? Yeah, it is. But the difference is, this is their world heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be defended. And Eddie Edwards is the right guy to do it.
I agree.
So, I will be watching.
And it will be very interesting now that we have a contender already against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and the way they introduced Gallows and Anderson on Tuesday was really good.
Yeah.
They're not rushing it. It's like, we've had the most successful pay-per-view we've had in years. Now, we have to follow up and keep it at our pace. And the pace they're going right now, if it keeps up, I can't wait for Bound for Glory in 3 months. Cannot wait. Doesn't it feel good to be happy this week in wrestling?
Yeah, especially after... I mean, I feel kind of sad because we had such a bad pay-per-view to leave it on Sunday. But then this week in wrestling kind of saved it for me as well.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. Let's get into the plugs. If you guys have any questions or comments, send an email, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Follow the show on Twitter at WrestlingShow11. Follow us on Instagram at ThatWrestlingShow. Check out our store, teespring.com/store/ThatWrestlingShowPodcast. Join the Facebook group. It is That Wrestling Show fan group. You type that in the search bar, you are right there. If you can't find it, it's okay. I post the link in the description of each and every episode. And visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/ThatWrestlingShow. If you like what you heard here, you'll like our exclusive content that we have. Mm-hmm. Bro, what did you guys discuss this week on Another Digital Citizen?
We talked about Project Pegasus. That is a conspiracy theory that comes from Oregon, a place where my lowly co-host Luke is from. So we talk about, Project Pegasus.
And I'm not going to spoil it now, but next week's episode is going to be a listen to, guys. That's all I'm going to say.
I am so excited for next week.
I'm not going to spoil it. I want you guys to be surprised. Okay, check out these other podcasts that you should listen to. Our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. They take you through the world of retro wrestling like no other show does. This week, in their Up-and-Comers segment, they take a look at Sam Houston. Plus, Week 3 of the Royal Rankings of the Best Talkers, and they review an episode of Wrestling Challenge from September 1990. And I've actually seen this episode. It's a pretty good episode. So
Okay.
check it out.
I've never
Our
heard of it.
Now, if you like the podcast, hosted by one man, just one man.
Just one?
Just
Really?
one.
Oh.
Check out
Greetings from Allentown.
Yes, it is hosted by Peter Winston. He watches one episode of wrestling each week in his own weird, unique way and takes you through his life. This week, he reviews an episode of WWF Superstars from July 30th, 1994, which has Bob Backlund challenging Bret Hart for the WWF title. Check that out. Greetings from Allentown.
I have to say that it's probably maybe my favorite podcast that we talk about because he's very, very funny and he has a very dry sense of humor, and I like that.
He does. Check out Juice Pro Wrestling this week. They have guitarist Dave Chandler from the legendary doom metal band Saint Vitus joining the show. And
Never heard of.
they'll talk about ECW, AEW, what's going on in the New Orleans wrestling scene, and much, much more. That is Juice Pro Wrestling. Now, if you're looking for non-wrestling related podcasts, check out Unspooled with Paul and Amy as they watch each and every movie for AFI's list of the 100 greatest movies of all time, the 2000s.
But they're done with the list. What are they going to do now?
Well, this week they discuss what 10 movies they would take off the list, what would be their top 10, and they discuss what they have plans in 2 on Unspooled.
See what I did there? Yeah. Because I listened to it and I know.
Yep. So check it out. It is Unspooled. Also
Check it out.
Also check out Last Stop Penn Station with Carrie Silken and Ian Riccaboni as they take you through the life of Carrie Silken. This week, Carrie talks about the one who got away, his high school love for the first time at college.
Aww.
So we may need the tissues for this one. It is Last Stop Penn Station. Also, check out The Castle Vault, a chronological deep dive of Disney animated films powered by Disney+. 2 men watching each and every Walt Disney animated movie in order on Disney+. This week, they discuss The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
One of the best villains in a Disney movie. I don't think it's a good Disney movie.
And it's finally coming out this weekend, folks. Jim Boy Star and I's review of All I Want for Christmas Is You, the Mariah Carey animated movie that we've been plugging for like the last 3 weeks. It's finally coming out. It's Christmas in July. And, well, we may as well do it this weekend. Otherwise, why put it out in the middle of summer?
True.
Next week on the show, Fro,
Mm-hmm.
I thought about doing this project, and I think you'll like it too. We will discuss, you and I, the people who have had the most success since we have gone into the pandemic.
Okay.
Who do we feel has gained notoriety? Who's gained success? Who's become big stars because of since the pandemic has begun? Because we got a long way to go until we get to SummerSlam. So, plus the wrestling. I will finish up guessing Fro's list if they have seen the show or not. We'll do all of that. So,
and we'll start a list.
What kind of a list?
Isn't it the PGI 100 hasn't come yet?
No, it hasn't come out yet.
Oh.
That's not going to be for like another month or two.
I thought it was this month.
No.
Weird.
Yeah. So everyone, have a good, safe weekend. You know what? Why don't you make it Christmas in July this weekend? Let's celebrate Christmas in July. Make ourselves feel a little bit better. Ho, ho, ho. Decorate a snowman. Put up your stockings. Listen to Christmas music, even if it's for one weekend. And come back here next week for another episode of That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And as always,
Wrestling on.
Wrestling.
Wrestling.